It is to you, yeah? Very good. So the three fetters is the theme today, and we'll come to that. But first of all, it's a Buddhist centre, right? So there will be people new today. So I'll just say something about the Buddha. Who was he? So he lived 2,500 years ago, born a few kilometres north of the border between India and Nepal. His name was Siddhartha, okay? So that's him, 2,500 years ago. His father was in fact the elected chief of the Shakyan clan. Elected, they had lots of little clans all around the place. Some were, they had kings and some were republics. So his dad was elected chief of the republic, okay? So they call him a Raja, which translates as king. And this has led, maybe centuries later, to some stories which are so embellished about the life of the Buddha, where he has 3 palaces, one for the rainy season, one for the hot season, you know, stupendous wealth. But the Indians like to exaggerate. Is that fair, Shiraz? Yeah, thank you. You know, when I remember when Sariputta goes to visit his mother, he takes 500 arahats with him, you know. Just imagine this fellow going around with 500 men behind him, and they all have to stay the night at his mum's house. Well, anyway, yes, they like to exaggerate. So anyway, the Buddha's title, Shakyamuni we call him sometimes, Shakyamuni. Shakya was the clan, Muni means the wise one, so the wise one of the Shakya clan, so that's where he gets that name. But also he was just called Siddhartha. Buddha is a title. It means the awakened one. He could have been called the conqueror, the Jinnah. Then we'd all be Jinnists, not Buddhists, yeah? So it's just how it goes, all right. Well, what do we know? He had a fairly comfortable life, that's pretty obvious. But it just dawned on him, I'm going to make this short, it just dawned on him that life is short, there's sickness, there's death, and he became disillusioned. You know, he said, what is the point of all this? You know, if it's all going to end. Sorry. But it did. There's a whole fable here, I'm not giving it to you, but there we go. And he became disillusioned. And then one day he sees a wandering beggar and he says, that's the life for me. And off he goes, becomes a wandering beggar, cuts his hair off, dyes his clothes yellow. And off he goes. I think he's about 27 years old. I didn't check this out. I think he is. Goes wandering, looking for teachers. He finds 2 meditation teachers, one after the other. They take him to, you know, their highest experience in meditation is not ultimate. He walks out on them. This is very quick, this. And then decides to become an ascetic, yeah? That is self-torture. If you could sort of conquer the body, maybe the mind would be free. So for 6 years he's an ascetic in India. He ends up being the most famous in that part of India, North India. Has a following, has disciples, and then after 6 years says, no, I've learnt nothing, and walks out. Goes into the depths of the forest and meditates there, remembers a sort of a spontaneous meditation when he was a kid, you know, just became really happy one day watching his father in the field ploughing, and he goes, maybe that's the way. And that's what he tries to do, to meditate in a more natural, sort of less willful way. And to cut a long story short, becomes enlightened. Okay? Becomes the Buddha. And very good. There we are. Lovely. He does decide to teach. I mean, one of the aspects of enlightenment is compassion, enormous compassion. So he decides to teach. But he has such doubts. He says it was so unlikely what he discovered. He said later it was like a blind man finding a priceless jewel in a pile of dung on a dark night. It's so unlikely. But he he does teach. He finds his old fellow ascetics, teaches them, and one by one these 5 people become enlightened. And I think the Buddha is astonished himself that it can be taught. And you can always hear his jubilation, you know, in the text, yeah? So fantastic. So I'm now going to skip right to the end. When he, you know, his deathbed, he's dying, there's 1,250 monks and nuns turn up for his death, yeah? All of them are at least irreversibly on the path to enlightenment. Not bad. How many? About 60 years he was teaching. So that's the life of the Buddha. There we go. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, he didn't really offer a religion, the Buddha. It's not one of these things where love me and you're in, you know. It's not one of those religions, you know. Some Hindus, they'll take all your bad karma off you. The Buddha said, no, it doesn't work, you know. Can't do it, yeah. So no. He offered a path, clearly explained. He gave us the tools to follow it. Meditation, various acts of generosity, things like this. And with that, we should be able to move towards enlightenment ourselves. Okay. Yes, we have Buddhism. Now, people who know me, even half know me, know that I bleat on about the same teaching all the time. They laugh. They laugh. You laugh the loudest. What is it, Julia? The threefold path. Why do I love the threefold path? First, you've got the whole of Buddhism in 3 teachings. It's all there. And I asked my teacher this one, Sangharakshita. I said, Bhante, we call him Bhante. It means teacher. I said, Bhante, I think the threefold path's enough. And the man was a bit tired. He'd just been talking for 2 hours in public, you know. And he listened, and he went back a bit, and he went, "It's enough." You know. So that's the teaching from my teacher. Yeah, the threefold path is enough. And what you notice here, it's a list, a very short list. It's just 3 things in the list. And, Rob, what are those 3 things in this little list? What are they?
Ethics, meditation, and wisdom.
Ethics, meditation. So we have a list. It's a very short one. Buddhism is in love with lists. Buddhism loves lists. And within these 3 things, ethics, meditation, wisdom, you have the whole spiritual path there. You don't need anything more than that. But we do need to go into a little bit of detail. So ethics, I mean, we have a list within ethics. Ellie, what's the list within ethics?
5 precepts.
5 precepts, yes. We won't go into it. So we've got another list, yeah? Meditation, who wants to have a go? What's the list in meditation? You again.
Well, it depends. Let's say mindfulness of making metabolism.
It could be that you could say, but I like the dhyana bit, yes? So we've got the 8 dhyanas, the 8 superconscious states. That's in the meditation bit. And what's harder to get right is the little list in the wisdom bit, which is, anyone?
3 lakshanas.
3 lakshanas. Another little list. Everything is impermanent. It all hurts a bit in the end. And there's no really fixed self anywhere in it. The 3, you know, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. The 3 marks of existence. That's the whole path. So we've just gone from 1 list into 3 little lists. And Buddhism loves lists, yeah? And this booklet here, which Sangharakshita gave me recently, this is gold to me. This is called A Garland of Terms by Ashpaji and Chittapala. I know them both very well. I've really been mates with Ashpaji. And they have grabbed all the lists from traditional Buddhism, from the Theravada, yeah? And I counted, there are 93 lists in here. Yeah, 93 lists. And 18 modern lists from our own teacher. Yeah, our teacher didn't stop, you know. So go back 2,500 years. Why would you have lists? Can I ask anybody, why would you have lists? What was India like? Think of the people who were getting involved. Why would you have lists? Who's brave? You could pass it on easily. That's absolutely right. And one other thing before that, you can memorize it, can't you? So a list you can memorize, yeah? Yeah. And I mean, I remember as a kid when we went into exams, you weren't allowed to take in any papers with you. So we had to memorise lists going into exams. I can remember, was it the electrochemical series? I still have it in my head. It's been in there 55 years and it won't go. You know, I probably won't remember your name, but I've got the electrochemical series from 55 years ago, you know. And these lists were very, very good, you know. Yes. But yeah, and these people couldn't read or write, yeah? So writing was no good. I put in here, they didn't have Alexa. Do you remember that monstrous thing that sits in the corner of the room? You ask it questions, yeah? Sorry, no? Do you have an Alexa? No.
I don't.
No.
But I know what you're talking about.
It's like having a person there, that computer that talks to you. Anyway, they didn't have one of those. But what they had was better, was other monks and nuns with memories. And you could ask each other and learn the lists. Now, the good news is that we only need to learn about 3 or 4 to have the whole of Buddhism. We don't need 93 lists, okay? But they are handy to have them in a book. Good. And, you know, just today we have shopping lists. Fantastic. You know, what's the great tip with shopping lists? If you're going to buy milk, make milk the first thing you buy. Why? Why? Because you come home with 2 bags of shopping and you go, I forgot the milk. You know, you went to buy milk and you come home without milk, you know. So I have this rule now. If I go shopping for milk, I buy milk first of all, yes? And all the rest are details, yeah? So, you know, when you look at recipes in cookbooks, they're lists. There's probably a list for the topping or the filling, and a list for the cake, and you follow it carefully, blah, 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 and you bang it in the oven, fantastic, and then you're clearing up, and there's a box of eggs sitting there, and you go, ah, Jesus. And you've forgotten to put the eggs in the cake, so whip it out into the mixing bowl, beat the eggs, throw it back in the oven, and it's nearly as good as it would have been. Yeah? But lists are fantastic. I watched that film Sully, that fella, the pilot, Sullenberger, who landed that plane on the Hudson. Do you remember that? I remember it in the news. And mate, it's a good film, Tom Hanks, you know. And, you know, suddenly one of the engines is full of dead birds, yeah? They've just hit a flock of birds, and they're flicking through the lists, you know, what do you do when one of the engines is full of dead birds? And then when the next engine is full of dead birds, and we need a different list. What do you do when there's 2 engines? And they have lists of what to do. Yeah? Be handy if you memorised them in advance, wouldn't it? But there we are. It's a good film. It's not on Netflix. I had a look last night. It's not there. Great. So, okay. All right. And today, I want to, that's probably enough on this. Tonight, I want to introduce you to a list, a very important list. It's called the 10 fetters. 10 fetters, 10 fetters. Now, a fetter is a chain, yeah? It's something with which you tie prisoners up with. You know, you chain them up with fetters, yeah? So they cannot escape. And so this is a metaphor. There's 10 things that in life we need to break. They're like fetters. And if we can break these, we will become enlightened. Okay? Very good. Yeah. So, now there's 2 ways of looking at Buddhist teaching. No, there's 2 different types of Buddhist teaching. There were about 15 of us last night doing a little puja here, and in the puja there's a line that says, the truth in all its aspects, the path in all its stages. Yeah? The truth in all its aspects, the path in all its stages. Because I'm working on this talk, for the first time ever I noticed this line, the path in all its stages. Yeah? Now, the threefold path, ethics, meditation, wisdom, that's things you do. Do. You meditate, you do it, you make an effort. You know, you're ethical, you make an effort. You reflect on the nature of existence, you make an effort. But there's another way of looking at a list, and it is all the stages of the path. You know? It's like if you were going to Mehringdam, you know, you'd get out the old U-Bahn map, you go, oh yeah, here we are, Suchdown, then there's Gneisenaustrasse, then there's, you know, and they're all the stages, yeah? It's, you know, it's only a piece of paper. And these lists are just a piece of paper, you know. And it's the old U-Bahn that does all the work. That's us, you know, going through all the stages. And you get these various teachings which show you all the stages of the path. That's all they are, a list of how far you've got. And the 10 fetters, it's a bit like a great big thermometer showing you how far you've got on the spiritual path. Okay, so let us have a look at it. All right, it's not very easy to read, yeah? Did it work?
It worked. I'm impressed.
Now, the good thing about this is we've got 10 things. How do I learn 10 things? Answer, don't. Yeah? Don't. The first 3 apply to us. Yeah? So, the 10 fetters, and it's like a thermometer. It's an upside down thermometer, but it starts at the top. And they're things we're going to work on, you know? A belief in a self, sceptical doubt, attachment to rites and rituals, sensual desire, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's interesting, there are recognized sort of levels of development in the old Theravadan Buddhism. Yeah? So, if somebody becomes a stream entrant, they've entered the stream. They've entered like the stream of the spiritual path. They've really entered it, you know. So just imagine some fisherman trying to launch this great old wooden boat by the river, yeah? It's in the mud. It's up on the bank. He's got to work like hell. That's us working with our meditation and our ethic. We're pushing. We're struggling. We're, you know, our friends help us, you know. And then he's pushing the boat through the reeds. And then finally it's into the water. The stream catches it. His job now is to jump on the boat before he loses his boat. You know? Suddenly the spiritual path becomes almost effortless. Yeah? He's irreversibly on the path to enlightenment. That is stream entry. The boat has entered the stream. And Sangharakshita says that everybody, every single person who comes into contact with our movement or a valid Buddhist movement can become a stream entrant in this lifetime. He even thinks it can be done in a few years if you really go for it. So this is the promise. Whereas enlightenment, it's too advanced, you know. It's too crazy, you know, destroying all the negativity in yourself permanently. Yeah? Great. So, forget it. So what we're going for is stream entrance, to at least be irreversibly on the path to enlightenment. Then there's no going back. And according to tradition, if you believe in future lives, which I do, but if you do, it means you can't get a lousy rebirth. You cannot come back in the hells or in the animal realm. You are a human being. You'll be a human or a god in future lives. That's a stream entrant. So, and to become a stream entrant, you have to break these 3 fetters. And this talk is about these 3 fetters. Now, if there's any time at the end, you can ask me about the others. Yeah, those 2 are a bit interesting. The others are impossible. Sorry, but yeah. But sorry, I'm joking. But these 3 are the interesting ones. Very good, very good, very good, very good. So now to find out where on earth we are. Okay, page 7's got nothing on it. So yes, just one other thing. If you break these 3, you're a stream entrant. Wow, brilliant, fantastic, a life well spent. If you weaken these 2, anger or craving for sensual experiences, you know, Snickers bars, blah, 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 sex, yeah? You know, just this, if you weaken it, you are a once returner. You're only going to come back for one more life, yeah? If you break them, you're a non-returner. You've done it. You go off to a really nice place where you just get enlightened, okay? So that's these 2. If you break all 10, you're enlightened. Okay, so so they're showing all these, but I'm not interested in all this stuff really, not today. Okay, you can look at it in years to come. Fantastic. So, belief in a self. Now, if you go online and you look up the 10 fetters, that's what it will say. Belief in a self. Okay. Now, I've put in brackets belief in a fixed self. which is actually more, that's real, that's truthful. Belief in a self, it's not very good. It's belief in a fixed self is a problem, yeah? If we think that's me, I'm unchanging, you know, then that's no good for our development, okay? And this is quite hard to actually really, really see that we are changing. I don't know, maybe it's not for you. You know, I mean, my hair's white now. I look in my crash home, it's all white hair inside, you know. So the messages are coming through. But I can still believe I'm not really changing. I still think I'm nearly 35 years old, yeah? I mean, it took me ages to get past 27. But, you know, just absolutely deluded in there, yeah? I remember reading, it was a Kurt Vonnegut book, Slaughterhouse 5, yeah? I've read it again and again and again and again and again. It's a good book. But there's this, he says so much in a sentence or a word. And there's one where he's sort of by his mother's deathbed, she's dying. And she just looks at him and he just goes, what happened? Just from that, you understand, she still thinks she's a little girl playing with her friends, and then suddenly she's married, and then suddenly she's in this ancient body, and she's on the brink of death. And she just says, what happened? You know, she probably still thinks it's the same person that ran for the whole lifetime. That's what we do. The software in here is a bit primitive, you know. Yeah? It's quite, so sorry. So, you know, and, yeah. But, yeah, have I changed? I mean, witnesses tell me I have. One witness was the Venerable Sangharakshita. It was a dinner in Essen. We had about 20 young men there, and we're all having dinner together. And somebody said, is change possible, Bansi? And he went, he was sitting, he said, well, look at Lalitaratna. He said that he has really become quite mindful. Yeah. Yeah. And then quietly he said to me, he went, don't let me down. That's pretty true. But I think he must be remembering, when I was first ordained, you know, I was 26 years old, it was a convention, so it was order members from all over Europe in this big old school. You can imagine it, huge rooms, big hallway, big wide staircase. There's me, 26, full of the joys of life. I came belting down this staircase, 2 steps at a time, down, you know, boing, 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 boing. And as I got to the bottom, there was Sangharakshita stepped right in front of me, and I went, ugh, and I just managed not to knock him over, yeah? And that night at tea time, ping, 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 he made an announcement, this convention needs to be more mindful. So maybe he remembered that when he's comparing me to how I was with him then, yes? So, all right. So, yes, personalities change, our sense of humour changes. It does. I don't know why it was so shocking, but I remember my brother, I don't know if he showed me, but his 2.5, 3-year-old was watching Teletubbies on television. Does everybody know what Teletubbies are? Yeah? Yeah, the horror of the modern world, yeah? And his little 3-year-old is standing in front of the television, can't move, watching the Teletubbies, you know. And a Teletubby joke, here's a Teletubby joke, and 2.5-year-olds find this brilliant. Time for bed, Teletubbies. And they go, no! And kids all over the world scream with laughter at this incredibly sophisticated 2.5-year-old joke, you know. So that's how our humour starts off, you know, and hopefully it matures a bit with time, okay? So, you know, our personality changes as we get old. Yeah, there we go. So, all right, yeah, personality changing. Also, one curious little thing I just mentioned here, there are a number of meditators who, on certain occasions, they just can't find a self, you know, in themselves. They have a little bit of sort of experience of no self. And talking to a few people, they've all found it pleasant. It's really nice. You know, when you discover there's no self, they go, it's really lovely. It's absolutely lovely. You know, peaceful, great. All that worrying you had to protect your ego, yeah, all the effort to protect an ego, and there wasn't one. And it's quite nice, you know, just to put the burden down. But I do remember one story. One of the first people to do it was a fellow called Ajita, an amazing meditator in Scotland. And he did it on solitary, and he couldn't find a self. And he panicked. And he ended up running to a telephone box, you know, across the Scottish countryside and ringing up Sangharakshita. Oh, there's no self. And Sangharakshita said, come down, you know, and he travelled all the way down to England and stayed with Sangharakshita. And when somebody said to Bhante, they said, isn't it dangerous meditating if this happens? He said, should be happening to more of you. That was his opinion, you know. So there we go. So, all right. So we've got this fetter of believing in a self, believing in a fixed self, yeah? And Sangharakshita, in his talk, Taste of Freedom, he decided to retitle these fetters, to give them new titles. And he called this one habit. Believing in a self is a habit. Yeah? He saw it as a habit. You know, he said, we are our actions. Yeah? And when our actions have a tendency all the time, then it's a habit. Yeah? And that statement, we are our actions, sometimes you hear somebody say, it wasn't me, I don't do that sort of thing, I can't believe it, it just wasn't, it was you, you know, your actions are you, what you do is what you are, you know. Yeah, some people, I remember, they can say such amazing things, but they don't do anything, yeah, and judge them by their actions, so there we are. But Sangharakshita said, yes, if we really look at it, we are a habit, and very often he said we're a bad habit, all right? But there was a lot of laughter there. But he said, and if we get into a habit, we can get out of it, you know? And he said, how do you do that? By being creative, right? By being creative. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean suddenly taking up an art class, going to pottery classes, things like that. That's what we assume as being creative. We can do the most ordinary things in our lifetime, but do them in a creative way. And I remember, you know, first being in the community, young man I was, and I was watching this order member, much more experienced than me, Vasantra. And he was washing up slowly, washing up mindfully, looked like he was enjoying himself. And I asked him, you know, you enjoying that? He said, yeah, it's a choice. You can enjoy washing up or you can not, you know. So I copied him. I got a good few teachings off him, and I decided to enjoy washing up, yeah. It's a choice, yeah. And I still have that. I still really like washing up. And I remember coming off a solitary retreat once, and I visited this fella, Des, you know, and I started washing up in his kitchen, and it was so nice. And my experience was, I was not in here, I was in the experience, but I was in my arms, in my hands, and lovely warm water, lovely soapy suds, lovely cutlery, lovely cups and saucers, lovely, rinse, 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 pop, you know. And he saw me go into the first dhyana, the first superconscious state, doing the washing up, and he just tiptoed away, let me. It's lovely. And I think sometimes remembering that washing up can take me into a higher state in meditation, you know. It's remarkable. So that is a creative response to life. That's our choice. Yeah? And yes, we will have to, we'll have to undo some old attitudes. All those fights, you know, after Sunday dinner, I don't want to wash up. You don't do anything here, wash up. I don't want to. You know, all these old fights we have with our parents, you know, reversing it all, you know, and becoming creative. But we can become creative about so many things. So that was Sangharakshita's antidote to habit, being creative. All right, good. Yeah. The next fetter is doubt, or skeptical doubt. Okay. Now there's a sensible doubt. There are many good doubts, yeah? It's winter. We're down by the canal here. The canal's frozen over. The sign's saying, do not walk on the ice. And we go up there and just tap the ice with our foot, you know. There's nobody skating on the ice. A good doubt would say, don't test the ice by walking on it. Please doubt the ice, yeah? That's good. That would keep us alive, all right? Fantastic. But there's also another doubt which is totally unfair. It's really unfair. And it will stop us making spiritual progress. It prevents us doing so many things we could do. We have the abilities to do something, you know, we have the experience and everything, and this voice goes, no, you can't do it. Where did that come from? You know, I couldn't really, no. And your friends go, no, it's you could do it. No, I couldn't, I just don't. That is skeptical doubt. It's nasty. It's really nasty. It even has a word in Buddhism, Vichikitsa, which I've said before. One German repeated it back to me, calling it Bichikitsa, you know, which is very good, you know. It's a life-destroying doubt, and when you come across the myth of the Buddha gaining enlightenment, you see this demon comes to him and embodies this doubt to stop him getting enlightenment, you know. Don't talk about it too much. It's contagious. Doubt is contagious. It spreads, you know. But the opposite is also contagious. That is some people have a lovely confidence, you know. We call it Shraddha. It's a lovely confidence, and that too is contagious, and that spreads throughout the room. So somebody with that comes in, and everybody feels a bit better. That's nice, you know. Good. Great. Okay, so we're moving through this more quickly than I thought. So that's probably enough on doubt, okay? So the next one, attachment to rites and rituals. So this is really, have I got it? Skeptical doubt. Sorry, just a minute ago. No, I'm going to hang on a little bit more with this one. Sangharakshita, he changes skeptical doubt. He calls it vagueness, isn't that right? Yeah, vagueness. Now, I must say, my experience today in Berlin, especially in classes like this, is I don't come across much vagueness. There's a lot of pretty smart people, pretty clear-headed. I like that, yeah? Going back to the 70s, which was like my formative years, vagueness was everywhere. You know, maybe it was so much cannabis being smoked and LSD, you know. I remember my brother, who was 10 years younger, they didn't have the money, so they were all sniffing glue, you know. I can remember being bumped into by a young kid in the street. He didn't know he bumped into me with glue sniffing, you know. But whatever it was, there was a vagueness around there, and you couldn't even have a conversation. You know, somebody would say, you'd be discussing something, and someone would say, well, man, I mean, communication, man. Is it possible? You know. That's what it was like, you know. God, there was even fancy middle class ways of saying it, you know. I can't remember. Oh no, leave it be. But you'd use arguments to invalidate somebody's, what's the word for the meaning of words? No, it doesn't matter, leave it be, I can't get it. But,
Semantics?
What?
Semantics?
Semantics! That was the, thank you so much. You'd make a statement and they go, semantics. They just destroyed your argument by meaning your definitions of the word like bus and travel are wrong. You know, I have a different meaning when I say bus and travel, you know. It's all semantics, man, you know. I'm exaggerating a bit. But you couldn't discuss anything because you've said something controversial. Semantics, you know, the meaning of words. Your definitions are different to mine. Crazy. So I just remember a lot of vagueness. Maybe it came from the hippie area, you know, the 60s, the 70s, whatever. Carried on for a long time. It went into politics. And I remember poor Sangharakshita saying, you know, we need to, it's Confucius. Confucius said, when you set up society, the first thing is rectify terms. Get your words sorted out now. Otherwise there could be no society. Yeah? But at least let's have a common language, you know. But I do remember, I tried to find this since, I haven't found it. But it was Reagan saying, when Gorbachev was dismantling their atomic weapons, we will not be intimidated by Russia's peace offensives. What's a peace offensive? Being attacked with peace, you know. Yeah? That is messing with language, you know. You see, anyway, there we go. So, there we are. Yeah, great fun. But, yeah, so vagueness, not helpful, all right? And basically, we've said some of it all. You know, clarify your terms. What helps us a lot? Writing is very, very good for clarifying how we think, how we term. What I've noticed, when I'm writing, I write something down, and that's one person writing it. That's Lalitaratna being a little bit creative, maybe. I hope so. Then I read it, and they said Lalitaratna now being a little bit critical. It's a different Lalitaratna. This is the critic. One's the artist, the next one is the critic. It's how I write talks, you know. Except I don't get to criticise it till I'm sitting in front of you. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, yeah. And by criticising what you've written, you edit it, you change it, and your sentence gets nearer and nearer to the truth. Yeah. And one of the tragedies today is the speed with which we dispatch messages. You write an angry email, it's gone. Email should have a 24-hour delay built into it. So you could look at it the next day and go, oh God, was I going to send that? Yeah! You know, and you can edit it. I quite like Telegram because you get a chance to edit it, whereas WhatsApp, it's gone, you know, to my pain and cost, you know. But Telegram, you can re-edit, and you get nearer and nearer to the truth. And poor old Banti, he became blind towards the end of his life, and he still managed to write and wrote a book, yeah? But Subhadra helped him do it, his friend Subhadra. And Subhadra said every sentence needed to be edited 8 times. 8 times on average they went into it, getting it just right, yeah? So, yes, writing, and he said, Sangharakshita said, writing is a spiritual practice. You can come nearer and nearer the truth through writing, yeah? There we are, yeah? I wrote down a quote from Francis Bacon, a 16th century English philosopher. He said, it was a longer quote, but I'll just give you the first line. Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So he's saying that if you read, you become learned. You've got much more information. And of course, they didn't have novels and things like that then. You know, it was, you know, proper philosophical works and things like that. So by reading, you became more learned. Conference a ready man. So if you now discuss with your friends and argue down the pub about the truth of things, yeah, you get sharper and sharper and quicker. So your mind gets fast with the knowledge. And he says, and writing makes the exact man. Okay, this is old language from the 16th century, yeah? But you become more and more precise and accurate if you write. So he thought it made a really full person to read, to argue, and to write. So that's wisdom coming down from the time of Queen Elizabeth I, you know? So very good. He wrote lovely essays, yeah? Helpful to smarten us up, to tidy up our thinking, yeah? And again, another quote. I love old Oscar Wilde. I've read so many biographies on him. He says, I choose my friends for their good looks, my acquaintances for their good characters, and my enemies for their good intellects. So he likes to have an enemy who's intelligent. Yeah, that'll test his thinking. Yeah, great. All right. So that was, where are we now? So now we move on to the third fetter, attachment to rites and rituals as, you know, just attachment to rites and rituals. Yeah, what to say? I mean, most religions run on this stuff. You know, rituals, you know, abracadabra, zoom, 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 zoom. God, sorry. But I remember this deadly, appalling secret. When I was 7 years old, they bought me a suit. We weren't wealthy. I was bought a suit. We had a lovely cake made. Friends gave presents, and I went for my first Holy Communion. Yeah, down to the church. All these other little boys and girls, all 7 years, all getting our first bit of God, you know. And they put the bread in our mouths, and it came, and the bread went in my mouth, and nothing happened. And all day long, I'm supposed to be full of God, and I can't feel the difference. I felt really not good, you know. And so this discomfort must have waited for a while, but I do remember, bless her, I don't know, it was weeks or months later, being in church where the whole class went to Mass, you know, and Rita Dempsey, this young, beautiful, red-haired 7-year-old girl, when we came back from Holy Communion, turned around and went, ah, and she still had the host, just seeing how long before it dissolved, you know, and good on her. That helped me, yeah. We have modern rituals. I don't know why I've got this. I love this one. I've never had them, but do you have a pair of lucky underpants? Yes? They're quite famous, yeah? Over the years, sorry, don't be embarrassed, but over the years, you know, you might discover that through wearing your lucky underpants, you get job interviews. Things go well for you. You go out on dates, they're more successful, you know? I've never heard what happens when the underpants get too old, you know, but it sounds like quite a good ritual. I mean, in a way, you have to check, does it work? Does it work? If it works, good, you know, get a pair of lucky underpants, fantastic, yeah? I mean, and these super football stars, they really have their rituals at the beginning of games. Very detailed, very careful rituals, you know, that they personally have. You know, you could call it superstition. They need to do it, yeah? I thought one ritual we have, which is very, very effective, is marriage. Marriage. His relatives all turn up, her relatives all turn up, or if it's gay, his and his, or hers and hers, you know, and they're all witnesses to this bond, you know, loads of presents, you know, it's a big deal, and it sort of witnesses this ceremony, and it works. It really holds people together very, very powerfully, and the government supports it with pensions and everything, but that's a powerful ritual. For me, that's the group working. A more spiritual one, I was on this retreat in 1985 in Italy. I was part of the team. There were 12 of us on the team. And I don't know, about 23 young men, well, not so young, some of them, they came out to be ordained for 3 months in this old monastery in Italy. Fine. They'd been working on themselves for some years. And then over a week or so, we had the ordinations all in silence, you know. It's supposed to be in silence. If somebody was called Fred, he became ex-Fred for the next few, because we didn't know his new name, you know. But I remember Ray becoming ex-Ray. That was really funny. But I remember lovely ex-Ray sitting down next to me. He'd just been privately ordained. We're all supposed to be in silence. We're doing the Metta Bhavana, and 3 would come in each day, you know, to go out, be ordained, come back in. And he turned to me and said, I can't bloody pronounce it. He got this name with a GN at the beginning. But we had the ordinations, and then it was amazing. It was an order retreat. It was an order retreat. At the beginning, it had been a retreat with order members and men working towards ordination. It was clear. And then they were ordained, and it was an order retreat. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is the differences. Sangharakshita, you've had that experience with the women? It's strong, isn't it?
It's strong, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
How did a little drop of holy water, it's not holy water, a little drop of water and certain words in a kesa, and then they're an order member. But they have been working towards it for 5, 6, 10 years. So there we go. But that is a ritual, and that one does seem, so does it work? Does it work? Ritual's okay. We do pujas, we do all these things, you know. I mean, at home, you might find a lovely ritual is to clean your bedroom before you meditate. It's a ritual. Make sure the shrine's nice. Having a shrine, it's a ritual. You know, good. And amazingly, I downloaded this from the internet, this Theravada list of the of the ordinary 10 fetters. And one of them says, basically, throwing holy water over yourself, meaningless. Cutting some poor goat's throat will not help you to heaven. That's strong, isn't it? Jesus, yeah. So there we go, yeah. So this is crazy ritual, and I'm sorry about that, it's a little bit dark, but it's there, there we go. So, all right, and Sangharakshita, he retitles this fetter as superficiality, yeah? We need to go a bit deeper, get a bit more real, so... But it's funny, we have special I don't know why I put it in. I have to break it to you. The Harry Potter stories are not true. If you break your glasses, just saying Oculus Reparo and waving a magic wand, no, you need to go to the opticians, yeah? But it's just, we really have a license for all this nonsense, stepping outside of cause and effect. Anyway, I don't know why I put that in, but there we go. All right. And Sangharakshita believes that this, he called it superficiality. The reason we're caught up in it is we're not integrated enough. We haven't really come together as a person. He said sometimes the intellect has the power and makes a decision. Sometimes the heart or the guts make a decision. But it's not really one integrated person. And that's what we're working at with our meditations. The mindfulness of breathing, the metta bhavana, they're like pumps going deeper into our psyche, so bringing it all up, and we have to bring it together somehow. These resolutions, yeah. Good. Yeah. And basically, he says, commit yourself, yeah. Commit yourself, and that will cut through this superficiality. Work out what is the best decision to make and go for it, yeah? I just put in here one little thing. For myself, I realised I was wasting a lot of energy with deciding to meditate every day. Should I meditate today? Should I not? Yeah. Could do it after lunch. Could do it. And I wasted so much energy that one day I just said, I meditate every day. Bang! And I've done it in public toilets, I've done it on buses, I've done it on trains, I always do it, And it's just released so much. My dad used to call it the lazy way, it's the lazy method. Just do it, So that's quite nice, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, indecision goes with this one of not being integrated. You don't know how to make a decision. Do we do this? Do we do that? We might be a bit fearful. And my experience now is when I can't make a decision, I've decided I don't have enough information. I've decided that's what I do. So instead of worrying, I start collecting facts in a very ordinary way, just collecting more and more data, asking people for advice. What do you think? And just collect it all, and then suddenly it seems obvious what to do, and then go for it, yeah? And my dear friend Moksha Siddha, with whom I live, he was offered the chef arts of his hospital. They offered him the headship of his hospital down near Essen, right? He asked his friends, what do you think? He came to the Buddhist centre, he asked Dharmaloka, asked Shantipada, what do you think? They've offered me the head job in the hospital. Status, more money. And they went, don't touch it. Don't touch it. At the end of medicine, you'll be an administrator, And he didn't touch it. And he watched his colleague take the job, his colleague lose his marriage, have his health undermined. And Moksha Siddha says, I'm still grateful to these two order members to this day that they gave me this advice, So use your friends, ask them, collect data. This is for indecision, yeah? Okay, so, all right. So we've got the three fetters. I'm ending now. We've got 60 seconds left, no 40. And the antidote, Sangharakshita says, to these three fetters, he says, be creative, become clear, and be committed. And these precepts will get us through. And so I just ran through a few of the things we covered. Don't be too quick to send an email. Wait a bit. Yeah. Writing is a spiritual practice. An intelligent enemy can be helpful. Contact with truly confident people, especially people confident in the spiritual past, is beneficial. Examine rituals to see if they work or not. Stop resisting and start enjoying the washing up. Ta-da! Thank you.